Hello everyone, you're watching Inside Out, where you find life inspirations from within. My name is Nina Ehrman, and today I'm welcoming Melissa ENGLE, who is a psychotherapist and art therapist in the field of trauma and addiction. She's also the co-founder of the Healing Springs Ranch in Texas, which treats people from all around the world with their traumas and addictions. But we're talking today about how to reconnect to your authentic self, to your authenticity. And I want to ask you, Melissa, right away, what has gotten us disconnected in the first place?
Well, there's several different reasons. In the beginning, as children, as you know, children are very in their bodies, very spontaneous, very live, very feeling creatures. And then as children continue to grow, unfortunately, in our society, there tends to be more of an emphasis on intellectualizing and intellect, and people are actually discouraged, and children are discouraged from feeling their emotions. Their natural spontaneous self slowly starts to get shut down. And I would say in the United States, men in particular are very much discouraged from feeling sadness or hurt or sharing their emotions.
Cry.
Exactly. So men can't have natural emotional expression. So they're even more shut down. And it's culturally accepted for men to turn that part of themselves off. So there's a minimization of our emotional self, and people really maximize the intellectual self. And our corporations and companies, that world, that part of the world, very much discourages that normal emotional awareness and connection. So a lot of it is shut down in our culture, but often what I've learned as well over the years is that if a child is experiencing something traumatic while they're growing up, there's a natural coping mechanism to try to survive that. And if it's too overwhelming, our mind will disconnect and dissociate and kind of compartmentalize that emotional pain.
So what are the first things you see in a child where you're like, obsessive behavior, or are they going to be, aggressive, or they can't manage their emotions? What are the kind of the first signs?
Well, you have to keep in mind too that there's some normal developmental stages that children go through in developing their autonomy and separation. So you're going to see little kids throw fits. So a lot of this stuff is just normal as a child is exploring all their different senses of being and their different feelings. So a lot of that is very predictable and expected. What I tend to focus on is what is the child's environment like. If they have experienced a lot of trauma and pain, and that doesn't have to be, it can be stuff outside of their control. They could have, their house could burn down. There's environmental traumas they go through. But also, how do their parents or their caregivers teach them? Absolutely, because it's all about teaching your children how to manage these emotions. And we can either teach them healthy ways of being connected to their emotions and expressing their emotions in healthy ways, or we could also teach them how to shut them down, push them away, don't talk about this. So a lot of it is shaped by our caregivers and how they teach us to respond to our emotional cues.
Right. One of my mentors said to me that kids learn in 3 ways: example, example, example.
Right.
So that's really it, right? We need to be the examples for them and teach them that it's, things happen to us, but it's actually how we respond.
Right.
Is actually what creates our environment or our future.
Right. And how they're going to be able to handle it. It's not even, I've learned over the years, it's not even specific the trauma that causes problems, because one child can go through a traumatic experience, 2 children can go through the same traumatic experience, and one struggles with mental health issues, depression, anxiety, addictions, and the other one does not. And you kind of look at what the difference is, and quite often what the difference is how the grown-ups in their life, their caregivers, help them work through those feelings, how they allow them to have their feelings, and how they role model to them, by example, like you said, how to manage that and how to express it, and it's okay. But many families don't want to talk about it, don't want to look at it, sweep it under the rug, teach their children to do the same. Or they rely on drinking to manage their stress and anxiety, and they teach their children the same. So we either learn to sit in our feelings and experience our feelings and allow them to help us grow stronger.
So how to do that? This is what I'm interested in.
Yes.
Like, how do you actually sit with those feelings? Because we all want to go away from the pain, right? I have a headache, take a pill, or I don't feel well, get a drink, cheer myself up. But those are actually doorways to suppressing the emotions.
Absolutely.
So how do I teach my children, I have 6 of them, to actually process them?
Part of it is being aware yourself, just the fact that you can look at and identify the different things you're doing to shut them off. Emotions are a natural response that come up in us. What we do, it's not about how do I reconnect with my emotions, it's how do I stop turning them off, because that's a natural thing for us to, emotions are energy that is going through our body and we experience them all the time. It's more about stop doing what you're doing to shut them down, and they'll be there. They'll just be there. They'll naturally come up if you stop shutting them down or trying to run from them. And I mean, we're hardwired as human beings to run away from pain, right? It's part of survival. So we naturally are going to pull away. It takes time and practice to realize, I need to be able to experience this. I have to cry. It's okay to cry and get this out. We need parents that say, it's okay if you're upset. Mama's going to sit right here with you. It's okay to cry. Right. You'll feel better later.
Yes. Evacuate all the negative
and
energy.
Stay with them and be a part of that experience with them so they don't feel alone, and they start learning that it is okay to get this out, because it's scary when you feel it and you don't know if it's ever going to stop. And that's where a parent helps a child to recognize, you're not by yourself. I'm here with you. It's okay to cry. It's okay, you'll feel better.
Even for the boys.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's the most of it. Okay, so once I know how to process my emotion, how do I actually go into the flow of inner self or authentic self? This is the first part, right? Like, it's the self-awareness. I understand I need to process the emotion. Is there anything else I need to do or feel?
Well, that sounds easier to do when you say just sit with your feelings, but when it actually happens, for people who have spent their whole life running, it's amazing how many ways that their mind will find distractions to escape it. So many people say, well, I've stopped drinking. I'm like, well, yes, but you are shopping 7 days a week, or you're working 14 hours a day, so there'll be something else that replaces it. And so people get real focused on, well, this behavior stopped, but they'll go into another behavior. And what happens is people actually become addicted to avoiding the pain. That's what the addiction is really about. Some people are addicted to workaholism, gambling. I've had people that are addicted to music, reading books, going to movies, socializing, traveling. When you start looking at addictions and you start understanding how pervasive, we have to look for the places that we are excessive in what we're doing that is actually shutting us down, because people aren't even aware that they're doing it. It's so natural. So part of it is being aware of the things that you do to contribute to your emotional disconnect.
Right.
Placing value in your emotions. People have to understand there's actually value to this. The wise mind people often talk about is the perfect balance between your emotional energy and your intellect, and you need both, because they're both equally as important.
Because some people would go just only in the emotions, right? And then
and they're too dramatic and overreactive, and then you have problems with impulsivity, because if you're too emotional, you shut off your logical mind, and you need that. But if you're too logical, you shut off your emotional self. And you need both. And so I think everybody probably has a little bit of a preference. Some people are a little bit more intellectual, some people are a little bit more emotional, but it's understanding that you have to have a balance between both and not to shut that down. And interestingly enough, if for example, if I were to call a puppy over and the puppy comes over and I call it over and I hurt it, I slap it and it runs off, and I call it over again, it'll run off. There's going to be a point in time where the puppy doesn't come back because it realizes there's pain associated with that. Right. So what we tend to do, if there's unresolved pain from our past, if you get hurt enough growing up, it's actually a protective move to shut down the authentic self, because the authentic self is the part that can feel vulnerable.
Yes.
And if your vulnerability keeps getting hurt, you will push it down to protect it, and you will tuck it away and hide it and not let yourself feel that. So it starts as a way to try to protect it, but over time you lose sight of it yourself. And I have so many people that say, I feel like that original part of self is gone. It was lost in the trauma. It was destroyed because of the pain.
Was scattered, or
and helping them understand it's not gone.
Yeah,
and giving them permission to know it's still there, and to make them feel comfortable and safe enough to be able to bring that part of themselves back and to feel the pain. And part of bringing back your authentic self is having to look at the pain that shut it down to begin with.
Like looking at the shadow sides, looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly, like all
and
of it.
Accepting
it.
And
a more holistic approach to you. Because what we do, like what I tend to do as well, is like, okay, I'm this and this and this, but this, I'm not jealous, or I'm not comparing myself, or I'm not, but yes, I am. We're we are it all, right? So it's like,
and we tend to judge the emotions within ourselves. So to look at self without judgment, to allow yourself to feel the feelings, to know they won't last forever, and that you need to be able to express those emotions. It's key to good mental health and healthy egos, healthy self. It's important to be able to look at both sides of this. And we, like I said, our society separates them and makes it easy for us to be disconnected from our authentic self.
wow. Thank you so much for this conversation, Melissa. This was wonderful to understand that we are it all, and that we really need both the intellect and the heart, feeling our emotions, expressing them. I'm so grateful and thankful for this conversation. You're watching Inside Out, Life Inspirations from Within, and I hope we'll see you on the inside.